Hello everyone, welcome you all back to the subject of Industrial Engineering and Management. So this video will be continuing with the remaining topics of Unit 3. The ones which are marked in the red are the topics which we'll be discussing in the video. Influence of climate on human efficiency, influence of noise, man-machine system, and the components of man-machine system are the topics which we'll be discussing here. So what basically the human factors and economics is dealing about. As you could see from here, we have been saying about the Darwin's evolution of how humans have been over here. And you could see earlier from the evolution of human, right now we are again going back to the age old category where we are completely sticked on with our system oriented works, right? So it just not only helps, it not only affects the health of the person, but also it comes under uh, the bigger question comes under in the name of the safety. So you have to ensure that the health and safety of the workers are taken into account. So the study of ergonomics makes all these factors into consideration, and it sees to the possible ways of utilizing them to the highest potential by ensuring that you design the jobs and equipment which are fit for the people, and they are also properly managed, and through it you can have a better effective organization on the whole. So what are the health issues we have been of late which have been seen with Gen Z kids and the people in the previous generation too? It's the upper limb disorder, because predominantly we have been using the mouse quite common. And the previous video we would have discussed, I would have said the example of how there is an ergonomically designed mouse in the market, which is quite available in Amazon. You can also just Google it and see. Uh, it's an ergonomically designed mouse to ensure that this particular part, the limb, upper limb, and the palm doesn't feel the discomfort when you're working for longer hours. The next category is your back pain and injuries which you are getting, because predominantly we are sitting in front of the system and working. And obviously the more important issues which are faced quite often is the eye related problems, predominantly associated with the dry eyes and power, which are at the early ages. And also there are psychological problems too in terms of stress which are incurred by the persons. Now we'll take an example and see how an actual and ideal workplace system is about. Currently, our actual workplace system, predominantly, this is how the system is operated. You could see that the person is not completely leaning back, so that he will be. So this is an indication that he will be facing an issue on a longer term with respect to his back issues. Also, the neck is not straight, so it will again put up an additional stress over him. And the monitor is not positioned head on. Obviously this will create an difficulty for the eyes. And also the desk lamp and the mouse and the feet, we could see all those parameters. This is how ergonomics is designed. See, you take into account all the body parts and predominantly which are involved in the work, and you see how they effectively you can organize them in a way that the physical fatigue is not incurred to the worker. In an ideal scenario, you could see the head is straight up, the eyes are looking forward to most of the time, the shoulders are pretty relaxed, you don't see them to be exerting much more pressure, the back is very erect, and it has also got a proper support. The hands are in line with the forearms, so you don't feel the pain over the elbows or not over the upper limb. And also you could see that the feet is firmly on a footrest. There is another option where the foot can be completely on the floor too, right? And the monitor is exactly at the eyesight high height level, so you don't feel the eye to be straining much when you work it on a longer hours. So this is the ideal system. Almost most of the industries have now realized the importance of creating an ergonomically designed workplace, so they are now moving in this concept of creating a completely perfect workplace scenario. But of course there are few places where even in our home we don't see that, right? So this actual scenario has to be replaced with an ideal scenario to ensure that the human factor is not finding difficulty in working for a longer hours. An ideal office working environment. So the 7 key points with respect to the human body parts is that it has to be either 20 to 28 degree. That is how the system angle has to be. If it is exceeding, or if it is limiting beyond this particular limit, then obviously the eyes are going to be getting strained to a greater limit. So you could see that 0 to 20 degree below horizontal, which is the line of eyesight, as will be little bit of difficult, and the screen should be free of glare and should not tilt and pivot, which obviously helps in easier viewing of the screen. the arms has to be in a way that there is a minimal bend at the wrist, and the area behind the knee is not that there should not be any touching over the seat pan, and the feet has to be flat on floor, or you can also have a foot rest over there. And precisely the arm and the hip has to be exactly at 90 degree to ensure that there is not much of a stress which is incurred to the body parts. If in case we usually work with our forearms a little bit extended towards the table, right, so that gives a little bit of strain to the elbow as well as to the shoulders, and in some cases the upper limb also faces a critical issue. So all these factors has to be considered. So an ideal working environment has to be in this setup, which ensures that the worker is not finding any difficulty or discomfort when he is working for a longer hours. Obviously that it directly affects the productivity too, right? So in a nutshell, the organization, if they wanted to get the maximum output from the worker, they have to create the workplace in a way that the worker is much more comfort and he is not feeling any discomfort for a working paper. And next is your driving ergonomics, where you could see if the person is very pretty is inclined, and if it is much more reclined towards the back, he may feel pressure over his shoulders, or he may feel pressure over his back. And you could see that the second scenario where the leg is pretty straight, you could see that he is not he will be much more relaxed when driving, rather than when the legs are very inclined towards a particular angle, he may be feeling a little more of a pressure over there. So what are the physiological factors which are involved over? The physiological factors are very important, and it may affect the person in a different way. It includes light, sound, vibrations, the air which is surrounding the work environment, and more importantly, the temperature. And that is why you see that most of the IT companies, where the most of the MNCs, where predominantly the workers are sitting and working for a longer hours, you could see that they have an air conditioned room, because when a temperature is quite normal and when it is not exceeding the into that heat zone, then the worker will be feeling a little more relaxed and he will be able to work on a longer hours. So predominant, of course, most of the other industries have also tried up with this concept of bringing air conditioned room, but again the temperature plays a crucial role, because the more heat, the more fatigue and the lesser output from the individual. What are the impact of climate change? The changes in climate have it is due to the increase in global temperature, the extreme weather and disasters, the natural disasters, all those stuffs are the reasons over there. But how far they are affecting the health of the individual is, it creates a heat related illness, inclusive of your headaches, your dizziness, all those stuffs. More importantly, it creates some cardiovascular diseases, and it may also cause some neurological disorders. And in few cases too, with the extreme heat, the people may extreme heat or extreme cold, the people may find difficulties with respiratory disease, and people with asthma may find it difficult to work on a completely cool environment. They would expect the temperature to be a little more warmer when compared to the others. So that has to be taken into consideration when you are designing the workplace. So what could the interventions and strategies that could be followed for an organization is, it should have an early warning and preparedness, especially people working in boilers and power plant. You could see, you might have heard that they usually have an alarm which is been implanted in their organization, where when they see the temperature is rising beyond the required limit, they see that there is an alarm which is ringing, which gives the sense of warning to the workers to move out of their workplace and assemble on a safety point. And you should also have a good education and awareness for the workers who are working there. They should be very cautious about what are the safety requirements and what are the safety standards inside the organization. So whenever they feel that the environment is not of that much of safety to them, they should either report, or they should probably just move out of the comfort zone until that particular problem is resolved. The next categorization is the impact of noise over human health, through which their productivity gets affected. We have been usually speaking about the noise pollution in the roads, with many vehicles utilizing horns very often. When you quantify that in terms of numbers, you see that with the noise value in terms of decibels is from 65, then you see that to be not much affecting the health of the individual. But again, when it is from the range of 65 to 90, especially when you are awake, you are not sleeping, this could become something uh, sometimes it may create some sort of nervousness to the individuals, and the breathing is accelerated to quite an extent. But at the same time, when you are sleeping, it has to be much more within the required limit of 65 to 90, right? So the previous value is only when you are awake, when you are vigilance in the sense when you are awake. So while sleeping, when the decibel value is about 45 to 80, then you see that you are in danger. Your pupils get widened, your stomach gets clenched, so you feel that you are not on a safer zone. And of course, when it is even 45 seems to be a little more of a higher value. So usually a decibel of 30, around 30 to 35 seems to be a safer environment for the individuals. And of course, when it is moving beyond the limit of 90 to 120, you see that deafness can occur quite often. So the upper limit is 90. When the noise limit is exceeding 90, you see that you are going to be getting affected immediately. If not on a longer term, if you're going to be getting affected immediately. So other reasons why we need to be very sure about the noise level is that it uh, when the noise level is too hard, especially it deals with the people working in manufacturing sectors where there is so much of machines involved, you see that the workplace accidents quite commonly occur because they will not be able to hear what is happening to the a nearby workstation. And most of you might have those who have gone for any industrial visits, or probably you can see in the internet, you could see that the workers will be wearing some earplugs. So the purpose is that the earplugs helps them to reduce the intensity of noise which are involved, because noise from machines are highly difficult to control. So they'll be giving an earplugs to the workers who are working there, so which helps to reduce the intensity of noise over there. Also, whenever the noise is much above the higher level, then even if there is any warning signal which has been sent to the workers in the workplace or in the work cell, they will not be able to hear the warning signals that may cause some accidents too, right? So why economics is given that much of importance is because economics is related to economy. We, from a management perspective, they usually see economics to be as an additional cost which is incurred. But on a longer term, on a bigger picture, if you see that when you create an environment in a more economically happier way or economically fit environment, then you see that the economy is going to be getting improved. Economy in the sense, economy of the organization, the revenue of the organization is going to be improved. So in new research which shows that for every 1 degree rise in annual temperature, the productivity drops by 2%. So even you see that the workers are working hard to achieve it, just by the climatic changes which is happening. For a degree rise in temperature, you see that the industrial plants drops by 2%. So that is how the impact is for the organization. So you need to have an cooling technologies in the workplace, so it may decline the absenteeism, and it may also helps in improving the overall productivity, because whenever they are exposed to higher temperature at home and outside, they feel that they are much more fatigued. We usually feel the same, right? When the climate is very hot, we move in the month of April and May, we see that we are very tired whenever we move to the hot sun. Whereas whenever we are moving in the winter, we don't feel that much tired, but obviously we may feel the persons with an asthma or respiratory issues, they may feel the other difficulties too. So this study has also revealed that implementing an economic solution will help in impacting the economy in a way that they have found out to be a 25% increase in the productivity. Of course, this is for they have taken the data from different companies, closer to 58,000 factories across India is what they have taken. So this data is cumulative of all those data which have been taken from those 58,000 industries. They see that whenever the situation is completely economically fit for the worker, they see a 25% increase in the productivity, and the reduction in employee turnover is 48% average reduction, and the employee absenteeism is also reduced to a greater extent of 58%, and more importantly, you could see the errors have been reduced to 67%. That is how, even without providing a proper training, we usually see that whenever there is an error, we see that we have to train the employees rather than putting your money on a training and making the employees to work for a number of hours. Just when you create a setup for the workplace which is more economically fit for the persons, it helps them to reduce the error. So that the study has taken from 58,000 industries across India, and they see that closer to 67% of error has been reduced on average from those studies. So that is how the impact of ergonomics is having on the economy of the organization. So from an industrial perspective, they should not be seeing ergonomics as something which is only adding up cost. It's something which is going to give them a bigger benefit in on a longer run, right? So next one is a man-machine system. Man-machine system as an interface between man and a machine. The various forms, it can be anthropometric, where human interaction is in static sense, and ergonomic, human interaction in dynamic sense. Physiological and psychological factors also takes into account. It is the relationship among the human beings, the workplace or the work environment, and the machine. So they all these man-machine systems are created in a way to have some objective in a common view. So this objective is usually well defined, and the system is designed in a way that the operational functions of both the components and the constitutions are very clearly defined, and they are properly discussed to the employees. A good example of man-machine system can be driving of your car, where all the inputs to the particular operation, the speed, the steering, the direction, as well as the directions and all the controls are with the human, whereas the process is done by the machine, right? The input is given by the human, the process is done by the machine, and at the end, the output is moving from one place to the other. So, for driving of your car is a good example of your man-machine system, where you could see that the operational function of both the components, the man as well as the machine, are clearly defined here. So we will see how the characteristics of man-machine system is about. So man-machine system consists of man, machine, and the system environment put together. It has specific inputs and outputs which are properly balanced, and they are more efficient when inputs and outputs are adequately balanced. That is a key important category. It's not that the input has to be higher, which means that the input from man has to be higher, and the processing of from the machine has to be lesser. Vice versa too. When the input is lesser and the machine processing is higher, you may also face a difficulty. So when it is quite properly balanced, you see that it becomes more efficient, and uh, it can be a variable in size too, and depending upon the dynamics and performance, sometimes it may become complex too. But anyway, all those complex characteristics or complex nature of the man-machine system are quite easily addressed, and they are quite easily can be reduced. The complexity can also be easily resolved and reduced too. Now we'll see man as a component of man-machine system, because man here is the key important aspect of your man-machine system, and it's man plays a vital role in the success of it too. The sequence of events which are generated from the external stimulus is very complicated, and the percentages of signals, the making of judgment, the mental process is what I said. When you are driving a car, whether you should go on this particular speed or whether you should stop over there, you should change over the line, all those things are judgmental, right? So all those judgmental or mental process which are done by the men, and the placing of information is quite temporary, because the memory is very less when compared to a machine memory. So it quite a highly and it helps them to an easier decision making, because the machine will have probably a good memory, right? The memory space and storage of a machine is high when compared to that of a man. But you put that on a different perspective, you see that men and machine put together, the input and output, when they are the input and the process, when they are properly balanced, you see that the efficiency is much more increased. So functions of man is probably used predominantly used as a sensing device, and making for judgmental and predictions. Examples of your men and examples of your men in your men machine system. You could see the first example which have been discussed earlier, driving of your car. The human here, the contact point. This is where the input information is transferred to the process, because this is where you take your decision of turning right or turning left, and the steering decisions is purely based upon the human perceptions, right? And these are the reference point which helps them to transmit the input from the human into the process. So the object here refers to the object contact point space, which is then transferred to the machine, which is the car here. So you could see that the human here is refers to the person driver who is driving. The object here refers to the machine, which is the car which is driving them. So the interaction between the human and machine, you call them to be the man-machine system. The other example is also here, which is a person who is working in an system. right? The inputs to the cognitive skills, all sensors and actuators are activated through the human, whereas the interaction is with the machine, and the machine also has its own actuators and displays through which it performs its own sensory operations, and it performs its own processing through which a certain output is achieved. The input is given by the human, the process is done by the machine, and on the whole you get a final output, which is a good example of your min machine system, right? So there are many such examples too in your min machine system. We can also discuss that as a case study separately. uh, with this, our unit 3 is completed. We have seen about the wage incentives, we have seen about the ergonomics, how an ergonomically designed workplace has to be, and we have also seen a min machine system and various examples of min machine system also, right? In the next video we'll be starting with the unit 4.